More than 50 million Americans with disabilities, 18% of our population, are potential customers for businesses of all types across the United States. This group has $175 billion in discretionary spending power, according to the U.S. Department of Labor. That figure is more than twice the spending power of American teenagers and almost 18 times the spending power of the American tweens market. Accessibility attracts not only people with disabilities, but also their families and friends. Like others, these customers often visit stores, restaurants, movie theaters, and other businesses, accompanied by their friends or family. This increases your ROI, return on investment, and expands the potential market exponentially. This huge customer market can represent additional business and profit for your enterprise. The Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 is a civil rights law that prohibits discrimination based on disability. The ADA also requires covered employers to provide reasonable accommodations to employees with disabilities and requires accessibility for public accommodations. It is those accessibility requirements that will be highlighted in this video. We also hope to give you some easy, common sense suggestions that you can use in your business or public area to not only comply with the ADA, but also make it more welcoming for people with disabilities and the general public. Michele Ohmes is an ADA specialist, consultant trainer, and author from Kansas City, Missouri, who was invited to Spencer by the local ADA Council to help area businesses and civic leaders make Spencer a more welcoming and accessible place for people with disabilities. While in Spencer, Michele visited with area leaders about the good things they are already doing and suggested simple and practical solutions they could implement to improve their accessibility. Michele started her visit at Sisters Main Street Cafe in downtown Spencer. Michele was greeted by the restaurant's owner, Debbie Marlowe. Michele enjoyed her morning visiting with all the regulars and getting to know Spencer. Michele complimented the restaurant for having tables and chairs that were not attached to the floor so they could be moved by a person with a disability who may be using a mobility device like a wheelchair. Michele also praised Sisters for their excellent customer service by always asking Michele what they could do to help her as a person with a disability. Staff always talked to Michele, not just the people that came with her. When Michele entered the restaurant, she noticed the business had a slight ramp. Michele advised the restaurant owner that this ramp might keep a person using a manual wheelchair from entering the business, since a person would have to hold one wheel steady while trying to open the door. Michele's suggestion was to have a small doorbell installed so that someone from the restaurant could assist a person using a wheelchair by opening the door for them. Sisters was able to install a Big Bell assistive device within a few days. Michele suggested that if you have a doormat in your entryway, it needs to be secured using Velcro or carpet tack strip. An unsecured mat would become a tripping hazard for the general public as well as those with a disability. Michele also suggested having trays available for those using a power chair whose device may be higher than the table. Michele also stopped by the Fairway grocery store in Spencer to visit with the assistant manager. Michele complimented the store for their power-assisted doors at their entrance. She also praised the staff for arranging items so that the items on the top are also available to those using a wheelchair. She also praised the store for their wide aisles and their black and white larger lettered aisle signs so shoppers can easily see what is in each aisle. She especially liked that the signs were perpendicular to the readers. The store was also complimented for the height of their checkout lanes and having ATM debit card readers, which were flexible to accommodate a person of smaller height or one using a wheelchair. In talking to the store's employees, Michele observed they regularly ask customers if they need assistance, which is especially helpful to people with disabilities who may have weak upper body strength or vision or speech challenges. Michele noted store management should be very proud of a staff who practice outstanding customer service skills for all their customers. Michele suggested to store management that whenever possible, try to put items that are on the top shelf also on a lower level. She also suggested adding signs to the store, which would encourage people needing assistance to ask for help from a store employee to get items which may be too heavy or too high to reach. And finally, Michele checked out the Spencer Public Library with their director, Mandy Roberts. Michele found the library entrance to be very welcoming with its power-assisted door and more than adequate space between the front door and the inside door. She also liked the excellent inside lighting and the wide floor plan, which was easily navigated by a person using a wheelchair. She believes the aisles were an adequate width. The library director advised Michele they would be doing some remodeling projects in the future, including lowering a portion of the checkout desk for better access by a person using a wheelchair. Michele complimented staff for their excellent foresight when planning remodeling to include improvements for people with disabilities. Michele suggested that all indoor signs should be large enough to be read from a reasonable distance. You should also pay attention to the height of signs to ensure persons using a wheelchair can see them easily. Restroom signs need to be on the side of the door, not on them, and on the swing side. And when possible, use a lever handle for all doors so they can be opened by folks with limited hand strength. Michele was impressed with Spencer and the community's willingness to make accommodations for people with disabilities. She offered these further suggestions when inspecting a business for accessibility. Check sidewalks to make sure there are not objects that a person using a wheelchair could hit. When using decorative pavers, keep them away from the regular walking area and have them over to the side. When installing curb cuts on a corner, try to have some type of island installed so cars do not drive into a pedestrian area. For a business entrance with a step, a simple solution could be adding a sign advising the availability of a portable ramp. When installing a power assist door, keep this in mind. A door facing north can only work if it is a sliding door because the north wind will keep a swinging door open. Doors facing east or west, if not protected by a building, work best with sliding doors. A south door works well as an outward swinging door. Check your access routes. Make sure they're not too narrow or obstructed. Stay away from loose throw rugs or overhead protruding objects. Check doors to make sure they have 32-inch clearance and that they have leveled handles that either push or pull, which is greater than 5 pounds. Work to make sure doors have an opening side swing clearance. Be aware of heights for those people using a wheelchair. A 42 to 44-inch reach range from floor to shelf is preferable. Check that people can operate items with one hand without tight grasping, pinching, or twisting of the wrist. Business owners should also be aware that if they employ a person with a disability or make changes to their business to be more accessible, they may be able to claim a tax deduction or use a tax credit. Please consult with your tax accountant or preparer to learn more about these options. And finally, remember to treat all people with disabilities as people first. Talk to them, not their aid. Don't be afraid to say hi when you see them. When you make your business or public space more accessible, you start to see a person's true abilities. See the person first rather than as a person with a disability. The goal of the ADA is to make it possible for people with disabilities to participate in the everyday commercial, economic, and social activities of American life. The ADA says people with disabilities are entitled to the full and equal enjoyment of the goods, services, facilities, privileges, advantages, or accommodations that a public accommodation provides to its customers. In other words, every type of good or service a business provides to customers is covered by the ADA. All businesses that serve the public must provide equal opportunity for customers with disabilities. Businesses that are willing to do simple, easy, and reasonable things to accommodate customers with disabilities will likely find it easy to comply with the ADA. For more information about making your business more accessible, check out ada.gov. You can also find good tips at the Great Plains ADA Center at gpadacenter.org. You can also contact Michele Ohmes at michele-able.com or visit our ADA Let's Get Practical website. Or call Spencer City Hall at 580-7200 and leave a message for the City of Spencer ADA Council. Now is your chance to make your place more accessible for persons with disabilities. Pull out your paper, pencil, smartphone, and tape measure and help make your place just a bit more welcoming and friendly for everyone. Everyone benefits when businesses give customers with disabilities an equal opportunity to obtain their goods and services. By positively addressing the issue, businesses can make it easier for people with disabilities as well as other customers to access and purchase the services or products they have to offer. Accessibility pays dividends and makes good business sense. Your new customers will thank you, and so will their friends and family. The Spencer ADA Council would like to thank the following sponsors and businesses for their help with this project. And thank you to anyone we have forgotten to list here. Your support of people with disabilities are greatly appreciated. How did you get involved in that kind of business, kind of work?
Well, first place, it's really crazy. I'm a certified personnel consultant, but long before that, I'm a certified respiratory therapist and chaplain and all that. So I've been involved with all kinds of things. Plus, all my life, I've had my own set of situations. And so I had a personnel agency, and I was placing a lot of people. When I was in a real big contract that I had in California, not only was I placing from the CEO to the data entry clerks, I had some people approach me, would you place people with disabilities? I said, absolutely. So I guess it was only maybe a half a dozen or a dozen out of over 100 that I placed, but still I was so thrilled. Got back home, and of course then we had the ADA come out, and I closed my, I couldn't get anybody to hire people with disabilities. So I closed my company down, reopened, and opened it up as a winning connection, and only placed people with disabilities, but I did it as a temp to perm. And so therefore I could get the employers to listen to me, and I would go into the employers and show them how to retrofit. Here's how you could do this for that person, and here's how you can do all this. So it was a very friendly exchange, but they also knew after 3 months or even shorter, if they didn't like the person or it didn't work out, they handed it back to me. So I took that fear out of there. And of course, by helping them getting involved in how to retrofit and design and that, one thing led to another. And I placed about I'd say 90% of my people that I worked with, I placed. And it was a winning thing. So then somebody said, oh, you've got to get on the mayor's committee. And the city of Kansas City hired me as a consultant for 3 years and kept begging me to start with them. And finally I did, and I was with them for 13 years, and my whole job was nothing but all the accessibility for the buildings, for the everything that they did, whether it's their policies and procedures, their transition plan, the whole 9 years. And so I had a great relationship with the engineers, with the architects. We would be working on streets one day and another day on a facility. And I just got completely involved in it and dropped the personnel side of it completely. So I've been doing consulting, and I did a lot of international trainings that came to the States. And my boss was responsible for the very first one I did. And people liked what I said, and they liked that common sense approach. Instead of somebody saying, you've got to spend all this money, or somebody being mad at them and saying, you should have done this, I would say, you're not aware, that's why you're not doing it. And they felt really good that I wasn't condemning, but that I was helping them be aware. And so that approach really works, and I'm still doing it.
Have you always been in a wheelchair?
No, I've always been in pain all my life. I've always had certain things, stomach problems from the day I was born, a lot of other things. There was a lot of things that were wrong with me I never really knew until I was in my 50s. And so many things hadn't even been diagnosed when I was still a child, because I'm 74 right now. And so here I had these things wrong with me that people label disability, and I just kept going. I didn't know any better. And all my children, I had to have a special brace on me in order to keep having children. And I have to make sure I got out of bed in the morning when my husband was there to help me get out of bed, because I didn't dare go back to bed because of all the back problems and everything that was contained. So I've had all kinds of things wrong with me, but finally, after using a steel back brace and crutches for quite a few years, the crutches were tearing me up because of the disability that I've got, the stiff person syndrome. It was just tearing the muscle from the bone. And I knew I finally had to stop that. So in '95, I broke down and bought a used power chair, because I could never have used a manual chair. And so since '95, I've been using the wheelchair.
So you can kind of come at this from both angles. You've been both places.
Yes, and the good thing of it is, I know people have said, well, doesn't this really bother you? And I've had healers want me to pray, God, heal me. And I said, that's in his hands. I'm not worried about that. He'll tell me what to do. But because of my disabilities, I have been able to help more people. And even when I work with the architects and engineers, we do walkabouts. I go to the colleges and the architectural students and the engineer, and I do walkabouts with them. And I show them, and they witness the things that happen. And when they see me trying to reach something or trying to do something, or I do all these different things, it opens their eyes. And when I talk with them, and they're allowed to challenge me, because in fact, my rule is you must agree to disagree with me. Big rule, and it's important. But they know that they can do that. And I tell them, you know things I don't know. So let's challenge me, let's discuss it, and we'll both learn from it. And I've never done a training I haven't learned from yet to this day, okay? And I've been doing this since 1990 as far as ADA goes. But yes, having the disability has been a blessing because they could witness firsthand the things I was talking about, and that I wasn't angry when I was talking about it. So it's delightful. And this city, I'd move here tomorrow if I could. It's just I'm tied down to things in Kansas City, but the attitude in this community is just mind-boggling.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit about your week here that you've been here. I know you visited some businesses, you've been to the schools. You got a high point that you want that you really?
This is terrible. You have to forgive me, but it's the high school today. And one of the reasons is I was given a good hour, I think it was. It might not have been quite an hour, but the 3 different lunch sessions after I'd done my presentation, and they did give me a standing ovation, which shocked the daylights out of me. But with all 3 of the groups that came in, people were coming to me and talking to me, and several of the students said to me, I haven't told anybody else here at school, but I want you to know I have this, this, and this wrong with me. And we talked, and then I had a couple students actually admit to me they had attempted suicide. So we had a wonderful talk about that. I've given, oh my gosh, I gave about 100, I think, business cards out to those students. And I said, but if you ever need someone to talk to, feel free, or if you have questions. But for them to open up and come over, I was never alone. The first, I was there maybe 1 minute, and I already had a student waiting for me, so I wasn't even alone then. And from there on, it was constantly students coming. And of course, I love the young people, and I tell them, you're our future. You're, you know, all my hopes are in you. So, but they were just unbelievable. But the school system here is unbelievable. Both of the grade schools, I talked to 4th graders yesterday, which was so much fun. But today we actually got to take them out, the 4th graders that I talked to. Well, you took videos of it and showed them how my van works. And the kids love that kind of stuff. It just, and then showed them how my chair works and everything. So children are just like sponges. So anytime I get to go to children, I'm sorry. And then the second best thing, of course, was Sisters that morning. Oh my gosh, that whole group of friends that meet in the mornings for breakfast. Hugged every one of them, loved every one of them. Going back Friday morning before I leave to eat at Sisters again. Those were really the 2 highlights. Then everything else was fabulous, but those are my greatest highlights.
What is your point that you're trying to get through maybe when you go visit those kids? What is the one thing that you want them to take away?
Well, let's just say this. At the high school, my whole title was Ability in Disguise. And I showed them the blocks of wood that just were laying there, bound together, and then this wonderful wood carver, and how he made those blocks of woods look like a corrugated box full of money. And it looks real. I don't care how you, and it's like, oh my gosh. And I said, this is ability, the blocks, in disguise. And here's what happened out of it. And so with the schools, I try to tell them, number one, how they are the future and how much they have to offer. Each one of them, I don't care what profession they choose, they have abilities, and search for them, look for them, and use them. But then also to realize, even when you see people with disabilities, and you know about it, don't think that disability stops them from living their life fully. And don't think they don't have hidden abilities that you have no clue about. And then I show some people like Stephen Hawkins. You'd look at him, you'd have no idea what a brilliant man he is. And some of the other people, and I show a lot of the, especially with the high school, the sports people, the guy who's never been out of a, well, he's out of a wheelchair, he goes to bed. But I mean, since he was a child, because he was born with cerebral palsy, he's always used a wheelchair, never played football, and yet he was the kicking coach for 6 years for the Miami Dolphins because he has an ability in his mind. And Temple Grandin, her with autism. So I just keep trying to get that across. And I tell them, and you have abilities also, and don't let anyone tell you you don't have them. So it's always a privilege for me to talk to the kids. And I think the kids really know that I mean it. And especially when I tell them, here's my card, you can call me anytime. Because I mean that too. I have people sometimes call me at 2 in the morning to talk to me about something. And I will listen to them at 2 in the morning. So that's why I go for the young kids like crazy.
Great. Did you find good things here in town in all your travels?
We did. I don't know how many blocks it was. down Grand Avenue, about 4 blocks or more, and then a couple blocks the other direction and everything. I was astounded. I mean, I had to look. I had to really look for some bad spots that I could show them. And the biggest thing I was able to do is help them with my opinion on some of the curb ramps and stuff. But I keep getting shocked at how much is accessible and how much, how much effort the city's made. Now, one of the pictures that I did take, and I made sure to show this with everything, I had some stores that are making it, available to be able to go in without a step up, and right next door will be a couple of stores that still have the step up, and I'm trying to tell them, you're missing out on business. I can go in here, but I can't go in yours. So that was a little surprising to me how many of the stores still have, some of them fairly good sized step up. And then, of course, at Sisters, the ramp is in compliance, but you can't ramp up to a door because a person in a manual wheelchair. But then we had the solution, a simple solution that they're going to be able to, in fact, the husband says, oh, I can do that, a wireless buzzer. And with all these people that are, it's like hometown in Sisters, they can just say, hey, buzzer, get the door, and then they can help people. So that's a simple solution, which is what I always work for. But it is the town, and then, of course, the county fair. I already wrote the letter to Daily Reporter about what I thought, and I'm going to be writing a letter next week about the town. I really am. This city is just flabbergasting, and everybody here is so community-oriented and caring. And I also, I'm almost positive I heard someone tell me that 2 or 3 people want to join the council, the ADA council. Well, that's worth it alone. If we got people to come and listen and say, I want to join your council, to me, that in itself is a success. Because the more people that do that, the more we can influence some of those people that haven't done something to do more. But I still, 80%, I still give the city an A. I really do. Because overall, it's wonderful. And I have been to so many cities, I can't tell you, because I help cities where Department of Justice has gone in and said, you're in trouble. And so I help them with their transition plans. I mean, I go on every street corner and survey every facility and survey. And oh, they've got lots and lots of problems because they've never followed up. This city is unbelievable. And I would say this on any television, I would say it on national TV, even though the other cities might get angry with me. Spencer just knocked me right off my legs.
Well, good. Well, we're glad you came.
Oh, loved it. I'm tired because we've been doing so much, but it's the good kind of tired. You go to bed that night and you think, this has been great, and then you go to sleep.
Perfect. Well, if there are folks that maybe didn't get to meet you when you were here, or maybe have some questions, whatever, how's the best way folks can get a hold of you?
The city, Janae Beauvais, is a great person. Get a hold of her, and she can give you all my information. And I think the website will have all my information. The ADA Council, Disability Council will have my information on their website. And start asking around. I gave so many, I made 200 cards and I have no cards left. I don't think I do. Oh my goodness, I lied. I have a few cards left. Out of 200, that's not bad, is it?
Nope.
And I'm still gonna see people at City tomorrow, so I'll get rid of those before the day's over with. But I just get a hold of me, yes. And through today, through the ADA Council and the Core Council, which really made all this happen. So it's exciting.
Well, I appreciate you coming to town, and I'm glad that you found good things here in our town, and I know you gave folks some good suggestions as to how to make it even better.
Oh, I hope so, but I'm be honest, I'm privileged to have come to this town. It's been an honor, and I'm so glad they found me and asked me instead of somebody else, because it's been a true pleasure.